The Israeli government under Prime Minister Netanyahu has just renegotiated details with African countries that would allow the government to sidestep court decisions and forcibly deport African migrants to the nations that have agreed to absorb them. Conservative activist and CEO of Hebrew City, Golan, joins us in the studio with more on this. Now, the original agreements only allowed for absorption of migrants if they were not forced out. This ensured that Israel would respect the wishes of for the security of the migrant, no?
Yeah. The original agreements basically said that you cannot deport an illegal migrant if he's not willingly wants to go back. And the problem with that was that none of them obviously willingly wants to go back because they came here to be work immigrants. They came here to make more money. So it didn't work. And once it didn't work, the country realized that she can maybe offer them a third country. But they still didn't want to go to a third country, which then the whole bluff of refugees basically exploded. So when the government saw that, the NGOs and the left movements are going to the Supreme Court judges and petitioning for every little thing, then she realized that now it's time to do something. And, I can tell you, Natasha, we've been fighting for 7 years. 7 long, hard years. Me and the people from the Hebrew City NGO, we've been protesting. We have been arrested. We have petitioned. We have made lectures and tours. Nothing moved until the Prime Minister has finally decided to come, to the South Tel Aviv area to see the residents. And when I toured with Benjamin Netanyahu in South Tel Aviv, I told him, you are not seeing the reality because they sterilized the area for him. But hopefully he will pursue this new agreement and not let the Supreme Court judges rule it off again.
Well, now here's my question for you. There are many of these people that are in fact refugees. I mean, you said that this is a cover-up of sorts. What happens to these people?
Listen, Natasha, we have 2 groups in the migrants. We have Eritreans and we have Sudanese. Part of the Sudanese from the part that borders with Darfur are really refugees. And I will be the first one to tell you that I will accept real refugees to Israel. But when we're talking about the Eritreans that we're seeing here in the background, the mass of the immigrants here, the ones who are bringing 5,000 birth of children in a year, the ones who are opening illegal businesses. Just yesterday, an Eritrean threw a block on a 78-year-old man who dared to pass at Levinsky Garden. These are not people who are refugees, Natasha. These are people that should go back to their country or to a third country. They cannot claim for the fact of them being refugee, which is a complete lie and has no base to it whatsoever.
Well, but there are a lot of people that are coming into the country because they're not able to support their families financially. I mean, it's a different type of issue. And, Israel has a certain obligation to people in need. I mean, we are ultimately a country or a country made out of what were once refugees.
Yeah.
And sometimes still are. So what is the obligation of the country to help those in need?
I'm sorry, I completely disagree with this, with people who dare to compare the Eritreans to the Holocaust people or, what we suffered as the Jewish nation. Natasha, these people come from a country who has diplomatic relations with Israel, who has only 16 universities in the capital, Asmara of Eritrea. These are not poor people. Maybe, yes, and I will agree, they are coming to better their economic status in Israel. No doubt about it. Africa is not a rich country, but we are not obligated to be the asylum for the poor people of the world. We can hardly deal with the poor people in Israel. This, we cannot accept, what did the world learn from this Eritrean? Now we have tens of thousands of Georgians. We have tens of thousands of Mongolians. We have tens of thousands of non-Jewish Russians. People who are coming here from Ukraine, from many countries, who are coming here and seeing that the Eritreans are, don't care about the law whatsoever, and they understand that there's a country here that basically doesn't enforce the law. So what do? They come here with a tourist visa, they tear up the ticket, and they're claiming for refugee status. We cannot accept that.
So let's talk about what you believe needs to happen right now. What is the incentive to keep asking and paying out to migrants who leave on their own if Israel can force them out? And how would Israel be able to force them out?
So the new agreements basically say that if an infiltrator doesn't want to go back to his country or to a third country that is offered for him, then he will be forced to get out to one of these options. And if he doesn't want what happened until now, he would go back. He would go back to Tel Aviv, to South Tel Aviv, do whatever he wants. Now Israel will be able to force force him back to one of these options, another country. But the problem is, Natasha, we've been hearing for the last 2 days about this wonderful solution, and I can tell you that I'm not opening the bottles of champagne yet, because I know for a fact that as we are speaking right now, the left movement's lawyers and the NGOs are writing the petitions against this ruling of the government. And I tell you, we cannot keep living in a country where we go to vote in a democratic, elections. We choose our people to represent and protect us, and then minority of movements are going to the Supreme Court judges who have a very radical left agenda, and they just rule out everything. This is not a democracy, this is a dictatorship. And we must return the balance between the people who judge and the people who make the laws. Right now, we are living under what I call the Supreme Court terror, because they cannot keep living in the ivory buildings and dictate to us how to live when they have no connection to what's going on in South Tel Aviv.
All right. Well, this is conservative activist Golan. Definitely. Thank you so much for coming in. I think next time we're going to have to bring somebody to challenge you.
I've been challenging. They've been trying to challenge me for 6 years. None of them can, and none of them will could.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.